Oh yeah. The last thing I wanted to cover, right, is because there's a lot of retail investors that are getting kind of sucked into name brands, right? It's like, why is Frito-Lay putting in pre-orders? Why is Anheuser-Busch doing a test with them and BYD, which BYD is an all electric, right? Electric battery. And then these guys are battery plus fuel cell. Why are they buying? Like, why are they going to buy? Why are they doing this?
Yeah. So I don't know what we can't know and can't see is the details of the contract between, let's say, Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch, and Nikola. We don't even know if that contract exists, that they've contracted for 900 trucks. I don't know. Let's say that it does. Why did Anheuser-Busch do that? If you've got ESG goals and you have to meet them, and this is the next technology wave, there's a lot of momentum to test these out. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, then you're not behind the curve, right? Because as a fleet manager, the last thing you want to have happen is you missed the boat and all these other people got on it and it was successful and you screwed up and you missed it. So they
did Anheuser-Busch or these other companies buy these CNG trucks early?
They did. Yeah, they did.
And they actually bought them.
Oh yeah, they did.
So why didn't they replace their whole fleet?
So sorry, why didn't
they replace their whole fleet?
Because there weren't enough fueling stations.
Okay, so that's the barrier to entry, right?
That's the barrier.
So It's kind of crazy, right? It's like, first of all, as a pure like financial being, I'm like, why are you even doing that? Like, they signed up for, I don't know, Anheuser-Busch pre-order Nikola. Ordered up to 800 trucks.
Up to 800.
Is that crazy to you?
It's not crazy because they probably are taking what's called order slots, which you'd want to get if this turns out to be a success. They would only get 800 trucks if the fueling infrastructure gets built.
Oh, there's like a contingency?
I'm sure that's in the contract, right? Because what I'm hearing is that the Nikola contracts are, we're providing, it's a whole ecosystem. We're providing the trucks, we're providing the fuel, we're providing everything that you need at the same cost per mile as diesel. So it's like no risk to you, Anheuser-Busch, right? So me as a equipment finance and leasing guy, I look at that and say, the only way that they can do that is if they heavily subsidize.
Yeah, they operate at a gigantic loss,
which is going to suck up cash like crazy and make them unable to borrow. Like, who's going to, if you have a contingent liability on your balance sheet in 3 years that you have to guarantee the value of these trucks way above market.
That's debt. That's legitimately debt.
That's debt. So then you got to borrow more. It just doesn't
and
work.
No bank's going to lend because they'll be subordinated to that contract.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, maybe we're getting a little too advanced for some people out there, but it's like, if in the concept of business and stuff, right? If you have a business contract to provide a service for a number of years, that's like an obligation. Like, that's almost like a form of debt in itself. And so like, where are they going to get this 10? Okay, let's say how many? So if I have 700 trucks, 700 fueling stations.
Yeah.
And we said it costs, let's say 12,500,000. So in between to cost. Okay, so let's say that costs $9 billion, right? And they have 700 million on their balance sheet.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, so not only do they have to build the fueling stations, 700 fueling stations, They need to build the trucks.
They got to build a manufacturing plant,
Yeah.
learn how to, and they're in Arizona, so they've got to attract all the talent, all the welders, all the everything.
And you have to pay for, guys, you have to pay for that up front because when you buy a truck, do you pre-order and pay the money, or do you just pay upon delivery?
Yeah, you pay upon delivery.
Okay, so they at the front. So we were saying $9 billion to build just the stations that he wants, 700 over a decade.
Yeah.
And how many trucks do you think 700 stations can support? Let's say you plan out your routes really well.
Right.
I guess it's 4,000, right? Or 4,000 a year you're selling. So.
Yeah, and that's
because CNG is 4,000.
Let's say that he does reach that goal of selling 4,000 a year, and that he captures 100% of the market.
Okay, yeah, let's just say they're monopoly for some, because you guys name a monopoly, like there's not that many. So 4,000.
I don't see how they can make more than 4,000 trucks in that one plant per year over the next 10 years. I mean, they won't be making any trucks there for the next 2.
At least 2, right? I mean, yeah, like it's crank. So let's say 4,000 trucks.
Yeah.
And let's say they have a 20% margin on it. So, and let's say they cost 300,000 to make. Sorry, 300,000 list. You're saying 375. Let's say 350,000 list price, really. But they're trying to hide it. They're trying to hide it behind lease payments, right? They're trying to say, but what they're doing is they're operating at just an absolute loss. Yes. So 350 times 0.8. So it costs them 280 to make. Let's just say $250,000 to make. Let's just again, benefit, guys. We're layering in so many benefits of the doubt.
We're giving them perfect execution, and we're giving them tons of benefits as far as cost.
So $250,000 to make, 4,000 trucks. That's another $1 billion in capital to make that stuff before even all the costs to build a factory, which I would imagine costs $500,000,000.
I'm hearing $500 million to $1 billion.
So so you're talking about they need $10 billion in cash to pull this off.
Right.
And like layering in another factor, right? They're going to be giving these things away at a loss, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it kind of begs the question, like if they truly believe in it, they should raise the $10 billion and build a network first and then start selling trucks on that network, right?
If they really believed in it, yeah. And I don't think it takes 700 stations to maintain 4,000 over-the-road trucks. I think it's a smaller number. I don't know where the 700 came from or why he thinks he needs that number, but yeah, why wouldn't you just build the network? So you have the network effect by building the network quickly. Yeah, yeah.
That's so interesting. Okay, so like 3 times, it's just, so for all of you, I have to wrap up relatively quickly here, but first of all, thank you so much for your time. Like this is insanely valuable for people who have just been sold this vision of like, oh, but they can just take the whole market and it's not about valuation because the biggest thing I hear, right, is Tesla was worth, they said the same thing about Tesla back then. But I was there back then, like, it's not the same. It's like absolutely not the same. Like, it was always overvalued, sure. But it wasn't insanity. This is legitimately insanity because if you say they have perfect execution in our monopoly business and in 10 years, we hit Trevor Milton's goal and basically this thing becomes as big as the entire natural gas trucking industry, this company should be worth $2 to $4 billion.
Right.
In 10 years.
Right.
I mean, maybe $5 billion. This thing's trading at $25 billion.
And what I don't understand, and we could probably leave it off at this, is I come from the world of financing equipment. If you have no revenues, I mean, let's say you just go out and build stations. You have no revenues. You have massive expenses, burning cash like we work. And
like we work.
Sorry, I had to do that. Like, who's going to lend you more money? I mean, You
No,
can't
they got
finance
to
that.
do more equity investors into buying equity.
Yeah, which is so expensive. I mean, equities, the cost of capital is
So you
massive.
just get
So,
diluted to crap, and
exactly. Yeah, you just keep getting diluted, diluted, diluted. I just don't. I just don't see it. I don't see where they're going to get the debt. Um, yeah.
so but at $10 a share, when all the institutional guys have gotten in, the enterprise value is like under 3 billion, which makes a lot of sense if you believe in it. And you have this ESG goal. You're like, whatever, like I can count it as ESG under my
Yeah.
portfolio,
Yeah.
right? And then it's
On the
like 3 billion
fundamentals,
on the fundamentals. It actually
it's
kind of
close.
makes sense at $10 a share, where everybody, like where the smart guys who are investing, right? It's like, okay, so if they pull it off, this could be a $6 billion company. It's a 2x, plus it makes me look good investing in clean energy.
Yeah.
At $20 a share, $30 a share, you're at $30 a share at 10 billion, and now you're like, okay, what? Like, yeah, it's just super interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like, well, if it is the next Tesla, which, man, that's a stretch. How many Elon Musks are there in the world, right? He has so many technological advantages and control over his IP and his manufacturing, and they're not the next Tesla. But even if they were, are people saying, oh, I got to get in now at 68 because this is a $1,000 stock?
Yeah,
Like,
because people don't really understand. Like,
that's
look,
crazy.
you've read about like the Wall Street or the Robinhood retail traders. Like, I don't
Yeah.
like people don't actually know, like these people, like a lot of investors out there that are just brand new. Which is why I produce content, try to like teach people. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really think they even know what gross profit is. Like, they don't really know what equity is really, like
Mhm.
what dilution is, like what I mean, they just don't know any of this. So they just look at the share price and it's like, oh, Tesla went from 10 to 1,000.
Right. Right.
Oh, so this is at 10, or this is at, or sorry, Tesla went from 70 to 1,000.
So it's
This is
still
at
possible.
70, and it's like a similar technology.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I love your show, because you do a great job of in plain language explaining well, what is it real? What are you really investing in here, and what do some of these terms mean, and why you should pay attention to them.
Mm-hmm.
And as a conservative investor myself with six kids, I'm not a day trader. I'm not, so this is the way I look at the world. And hopefully it's benefiting someone else who's plopping down their hard-earned money.
Look, I mean, so congrats on the 6 kids. I'm sure have you done any 529 savings plans?
We know 529. Yeah.
Very well, I'm sure. For those of you that don't know, that's like a college pre-tax savings plan for education and stuff. I mean, whatever, like whether this gets 10 views, 1,000 views, 10,000 views, whatever. I'm not really a big YouTuber, I'm very small in this grand scheme of things. Those people that watch and hear like that it's impossible to believe anything for this thing to be worth $70 a share. You'll save some people some heartache. And so I feel good about that. And that's why I never try to hype up anything. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And
you're very welcome.
I need to get you back on, because we have a full another segment at some point to talk about the Tesla Semi and battery trucks.
Yeah, I would love to talk about that, because I think that's a much better investment opportunity.
Okay, that's interesting. We'll leave it there, because that's that'll tease the next conversation.